Reactive training systems.
So the UK. So that's I don't know. Does that feel like a big move to you, or?
To be honest, I'm used to moving because 10 years ago I moved to Belgium and I had to restart afresh. So pretty much what I'm used to, like, starting afresh, because that is one of the most scariest thing to do, like leaving everything you've known, the beliefs, and having to reintegrate yourself in a different system. Talking of culture, talking of like attitude and discipline behaviors, talking of like the shocks you have, immediately once you get there. It gives you a reality check and it makes you better actually.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
technically used to this, and
Do you feel like you got integrated easier, like through sports in Belgium?
that comes in to me starting powerlifting and say training in general. Because the idea was, I'm bored and I didn't have anything to do. I never did sports in high school. I was like, what can I do? Like, the gym was the only solution or the only place that welcomed me with open arms. That's where my social life began. Yeah. So that's where I found
That's
all
pretty
these beautiful friends,
Yeah. I believe that was also during lockdown where you got introduced to powerlifting, strength sports in general, and also strongman, right?
Yeah. It's really strange to me. I mean, basically why? Because, like I said, I never did any sports. People who transition to powerlifting or let's say strongmen basically have a background in, let's say, playing football or rugby, because it's in line, with strength, generating the max strength, the short distance.
Mhm.
The people I've come across have done this and I never did that. So it was really surprising to me how better of an athlete I could have become, gradually. And I've seen myself, improve throughout just within 2 years. I still can't believe it, moving on to achieving greatness for myself and all of that. And I still know the best is yet to come. So
Yeah.
obviously, thanks to COVID.
That's pretty
I've won the
well. It's
push.
only been 2 years, huh?
Yeah, 2 years, really strange.
Yeah, you achieved crazy things. Like recently you just did a Guinness World Record, and you're playing with the top tier athletes in strongman at the moment. So
Yeah.
you're basically traveling the world all the time.
It comes down to mindsets and your vibrations, because I as a person believe in good vibes, I believe in attracting, and being in sync with your body, mind, your heart, everything being aligned. That's when you could attract the right vibration to you. And I could use myself as a proof. I'm always a person who never play a victim to the past. I try to, strive onto greatness, and I try to reinvent myself. And that has been evident through the move to Belgium, trying to reintegrate, people trying to, just associate themselves to me just because of positivity. So yeah, that was unbelievable. And of course I thought about that. I knew I was meant for greatness. So transition to sports became much more easier thanks to the vibe and the personality I had, as a person. So being on top with the big guys was it still doesn't feel real, if I'm honest. Then again, imposter syndrome comes in. Talking of the Guinness World Record, it's 3, not 1. 3, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Growing up as a kid, watching all of these things, all of these shows, and asking yourself, how could you leave a legacy? Yeah. So being there, I've actually been awarded with a certificate. It felt like I was dreaming, but it was real. It happened.
Could you talk about what that was like just for people that don't know as well? Where were you? What was the event, and how did it all play out?
Yeah. So basically, I flew over to Milan 4 different times, and I had to do 5 records in total. So the first was flipping 5 different cars that weighed almost 800 kilos. So we had to flip a 360 on the side. That was the biggest challenge because I didn't know how to practice. Some things in strongman you can't do. So I think I lost 200. Yeah. I remember losing 200 in Milan. The producers were like, why not? Why not come for other records? I was like, I'm down for anything. So the second one I went for was a frame carry, which is very famous in strongman. Frame carry uphill, and it's dominantly Arnold's classic. So the big boys are going to be doing it soon. So I had to lift the weight of 400 kilos uphill, and that was surprisingly easy. Training in the gym, having the right energy around me. So I broke the record. I had 8.07 seconds. 8.07 seconds. And I remember a Dutch guy challenged me, so they actually flew the Dutch guy in because he was like, yeah, maybe I could break it. And strange enough, I rebroke my own record, making it a 7-point-something seconds.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I remember doing all these records in a span of 1 month. But in a week, I achieved these records. And The last one was a deadlift. So a deadlift framed into a throne. So you had a king and queen, totaling like a 340 kilos. And I had the most reps in 1 minute. So I had a total of like 9 reps. And the
9
last-
reps with 340 in a minute. Wow. And we should linger on that frame carry for a little too, because I know a lot of people maybe haven't seen the frame carry, but I've been lucky to see the frame at the Arnold up close. And first of all, it was crazy. I don't know what the situation was like for you, or if strongman in general has changed over the years. It's been quite a few years since I got to see the strongman at the Arnold up close, but I had a friend of mine who was competing, and he kind of snuck me backstage. And so I'm back there with all these guys, the, giants of strongman in the, what was it, 2010s or something. And they're getting ready for this frame carry. I want to say it was, I don't know, probably 320 kilos or
Yeah.
more than that, maybe. It was a lot. And the warm up situation in the back was like a trap bar deadlift with 100 kilos.
Yeah.
And that's how everyone was warming up. And it was at that moment where I was like, I am not cut out for strongman.
Did you ever try it, Mike?
I had played around with it a little bit, but not in a serious way. It's one of those things that's super impressive, and I think that's a big draw of strongman, is that like even people who don't have a specific frame of reference can get it. You see somebody flipping a car and you get it, right? Even if you don't know, even if the weight doesn't make sense to you. But I appreciate it on that level. But I have come to really enjoy like the repetitiveness of powerlifting, the fact that it's like one relatively simple thing that I'm trying to master. And Gabby, like, where my head goes on training. Can you imagine if I was trying to wrap my head around some event? Like in a lot of these contests, it's like some event that you don't even know what the parameters are until you get there. That would be, that's a really cool aspect of it, and probably makes it a lot more sport-like than, something like powerlifting, which is, essentially the same sport. Like it's the same contest over and over again.
Mhm.
But the variety makes it interesting in strongman, which I think is cool as a viewer. I would struggle with it as a competitor.
Yeah. I mean, that's what kind of like transitioned me fully into strongman, because fun fact is I did strongman first. I mean, my first competition before I actually did a first meet in Belgium. I remember that was IC1 during the same period of time.
Powerlifting.
Yeah, powerlifting. And the Belgian qualifications comes next week.
Yeah.
So it takes me back to like 2 years ago, where I was off season from strongman because I started late in the year, and the new year came on, and I was just like wondering what to do. So I was like, oh, maybe because I used to bench, deadlift, and squats, let me just jump it. And kind of was good, but then again, it got a bit boring because the prep kind of got monotonous, and my brain started like, freaking out, because then it kind of narrows you all down to a way. But then again,
Oh yeah, for sure.
I was actually wondering what led you to decide to fully commit to strongman, because you did 2 powerlifting competitions in Belgium.
Yes.
With your last one at the Nationals in 2022, that was it. You deadlifted 338 kilos, and that was a national record in the 120 plus. Like, were you satisfied with that and then decided to move on, or did you just notice, okay, it's not my sport, my heart bleeds for strongman, so I'm going to continue that?
Truth is, I remember having my first coach, Olivier, my best friend, and coaching me and actually believing in me, because it takes me back to like 9 years ago, where like no one literally used to deadlift in Belgium, yeah? So I recall being kicked out from the gym because people thought I was making noise in the gym. Basically, those in Belgium knows that.
Commercial gym vibes.
Like 5 years into, I realized them building the deadlift platforms and stuff. I really got, hurt, because I like, damn, So I was literally kicked out. I deadlifted 220 back in the days, and all of you actually knows it. He's seen it. And bringing me back to like the question you asked, I always knew I had something in me, and I always loved deadlift, because, you have blood gushing through your brains, and, you have the adrenaline and stuff. Brings like the beast in you, let me call it. And I always wanted to, chasing big numbers, looking up to Eddie Hall, who deadlifted and stuff. Even referencing Larry Wills from the States, seeing as I remember, was it Bradley Martin? Back in the days, we used to look up to him. So in my mind, I was like, damn, if this is like going on, I'd love to have some workouts, you know, my name. So that's when I deadlifted 345 in the gym. Then competition started, it's pretty different. Things changed more than everything. That's when I had a 338. So internally, I had a vision of going for 350 kilos. That was my main goal. But then I realized, no, this is not really possible. After going through the shock, you know, and everything, through squats, bench, deadlift, having to wait for things and all of that, I got pretty fatigued. And the structure of the strongman season is really tensed up when you want to be a pro. So because last year was my my grind season, I was all over the continent in Europe. I've been to like almost each and every country, like just competing, just trying to make a name for myself. But through that process, I didn't have time to like, you know, compete. That's when I realized, I have to focus on like strongman.
Yeah, you have to train specific also. So
Yeah.
at some point, if you want to be one of the greatest, you have to make the decision to commit to something.
Truth is, powerlifting is a base, like power. The name comes powerlifting. To be a strongman, you need to go through the phase of power, yeah? And currently preparing for one of the biggest competitions in my life. I can't give information yet, but it's going to be known later. I mean, preparing for one of the biggest competitions in my life. We came back to the power phase where squats is being built, you know? Like shockingly yesterday, being on a Monday, I had to deadlift like 280 because I'm very good at 1 max a rep. I really, really, really suck at doing volume. So my coach realized that and he gave me tons of volume, you know, and all of that, yeah, because volume is hard.
Yeah, classic
Volume
move, coach.
volume is where the attitude is built. You get me?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you rush, you realize your body can't get it. So that's when you start taking your time and taking each and every rep one by one. So it teaches you patience. It teaches you attitude. It teaches you like resilience. It teaches you like, I would put it like formation, because gathering yourself together, making sure everything is in sync. So that,
Yeah.
I mean, powerlifting is a base to strongman. Yeah, I'd hate to admit it, but that's the truth. Because you have most strongmen that, you know, hate on powerlifting.
You mentioned something that you said that last year was your grind season. I guess these things come and go in like year-long waves or something like that. That's not really a thing for powerlifting. You do a competition and then you kind of pick the next one in the series. If you make it to a high level, then it's kind of a train that you stay on, you know, that you go to whatever major competitions, you go to the World Championship. Now, these days, for the very best, they'll go to Sheffield and things like that. But it's kind of a yearly rhythm. You stay on that every year. It sounds like maybe that's not so much the way that strongman is structured.
Strongman is actually short seasons. I mean, you have a very long off season, let's say longest like 3 months. Then the season starts and you have lots of competitions with numerous prize tags, prizes. So it comes down to like your prep and everything. But then it was really fascinating jumping from comp to comp, having short preps and being able to adapt. But then again, it forms an athlete, you know, it forms the discipline and attitude. And having a background like in powerlifting, I was able to like, you know, push through and maneuver through. So I'd say the big difference, like you already highlighted, is the time span of competing. Because then again, I compete in the Champions League, which is very famous. And we kind of do a tour, 16 countries in one year. So some competitions come just like from back to back. I remember having to fly to Birmingham. No, was it? Yeah. Birmingham for a comp. And the week after I was in Sopot in Poland. And the next week I was in Hungary. So it was like back to back. And yeah.
You won actually in Portugal.
Yeah, Portugal was the competition that gave me a head start in my whole professional career. Because when it comes to winning, you know, people want to see how you could perform. Being put in the midst of big boys. I mean, I remember we having Gavin Belton, who is one of the biggest names in the sports. He's a Wales guy. You're having Kane Francis, also a British guy on top of his game, who recently qualified for World's Strongest Man. So having all this back in the team was really like, you know, hard. And I listened to a podcast of Gavin, and he even admitted he came into that competition expecting to win. Because yeah, he's a big boy, he's a big name. And on that comp was the best comp in my life. I was the most relaxed, and I actually won with a very huge gulp that was like really strange to me. Just because I basically was enjoying it. So that gave me a head start in my career going into the UK. Because after Portugal, I had to go to the UK. And like I said, the Brits talk a lot about the sports. So that's what got into the promoters' ears, and they just invited me for my very, very, very first big show. That was Giants Live in Cardiff for the World Deadlift Championship. And that's why I met Jamal Brano, actually. Jamal, we basically know him, yeah?
It's really nice.
Yeah, that's cool. The Giants Lab competitions are kind of showcasing my against a little bit here, but those are known for being heavier competitions, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And
Very.
that would line up well for somebody who's really good at 1RM attempts and things like that.
Truth is, I remember having to meet even the world's strongest man. So that's Mitchell Wilbur, the current one. And having to meet the Stockman brothers. Luke Stockman is an amazing man. It didn't feel real, you know what I mean? And one of the main differences with strongman and powerlifting, obviously, is the reps. So you don't have to do one rep max. You'd have to like consistently move weights, above the limit, which you've never done before. And the adrenaline coming in with the speed and all of the composure, like I said, coming in is really intense and a fast pace. Surprisingly, I did very good on my first Giants Live show. That's what actually also built momentum,
Yeah.
Crazy, because like you in strongman you're supposed to have high conditioning, while at the same time you also have a really high body weight. Like you weigh around 140 kilos, if I'm not mistaken.
Approximately.
Yes. So like it's a lot. It's intense. How do you manage that, also nutrition wise?
So for my next big competition, my dietitian wants me to go to 145. So at the same time, being able to keep up with the condition and everything. My background was like to this is being stubborn, because back in the days I used to do a little bit of calisthenics, a little bit of bodybuilding, and a little bit of powerlifting. That's what gave me the deadlift to 20 kilos 9 years ago, being kicked out from the gym. So as a person, I'm very versatile and, have been always willing to have more on my plate. And that's what also added to my success. I'm not the best when it comes to one rep max, but I'm always the guy who runs around. That explains my record with a frame carry, because it comes down to being fast on the feet. So I looked into the sport and I realized, of course, others go up to 200 kilos, talking about the half-top Beyonces, the Eddie Halls. They weigh 200 kilos, can you imagine? So I was like, if these guys could actually move weights, at this pace, then I could have a chance. So the stuff like yoke, which I really love, farmers, frame, sandbag carries, I could sneak into weight. Because think about strongman like scoring points. It's a point scoring system. You have 5 events classically, and then in every event you have to score points from 12 guys.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy with the highest points actually wins the competition. So it comes down to knowledge as well. You playing with your cards, your advantages. So people go into competitions having calculations of what to do and what not to do, and where to put your powers up. That's what makes the difference.
You also have to manage your energy level.
Manage energy level,
because that's also really interesting, since in powerlifting you do one competition and you're wrecked. And then you do long off season. In strongman you do, as you previously mentioned, you do competitions like each week almost. And you don't do the same discipline each week, but still it takes a toll on you. So you have to know how to manage that.
Surprisingly, sometimes you have events where you never have the equipment, because strongman is really random, yeah? Like, an example is me not having a Conan wheel and having to, go to comp a week after going to do Conans. So then you have to be very creative, have to, see how your body works and use your leverages. So it's always surprising. Some events you could never
be an athlete and learn quickly. Yeah.
There's so many events in strongman, so much more. And it keeps coming. The steeplechase was developed recently. So a steeplechase, to those who don't know, is like putting 2 bags over a bar, pick it up, the weight again, and just putting it over another bar, like sandbags.
You mentioned kind of getting started with body weight and calisthenics stuff, and it made me think, what was your body weight before you started training?
So I was a very big baby, and my mom, I could reference this. I think I was almost 6 kilos. Yeah. So my mom had to. She couldn't. I was not taken out with a normal birth. They had to literally cut spots open just to get me out. Yeah. So I've always been a fat kid, and if I allow myself, I could go even to 150. So I remember meeting my first coach. I was a 145, very chubby. Already starting the sports, and we had to tone down to 120. And we had to slowly build it back. So my standard weight was around 135. Until recently, it was we have to really push it up, 145, because you could really handle it. And it comes down to lots and lots of food. But even before the call, you saw me eating my cereal. That was a post-workout meal.
Yeah. Good problems to have, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, so like body weights, I remember coming over to an 80 kilos when I was like 15, moving to a 90 when I initially started this journey, moving to like 100, going over to 145. That was ending of 2020. I remember
Mhm.
doing that competition, the deadlift championships at 145. And I look at myself and I saw my cheeks really bloat up, my belly, big belly and everything. Like the peak male physique, yeah.
Yeah.
What I used to. So
You said something when you were talking about your competition in Portugal. You said that, you went into that competition mentally very relaxed and performed really well. Is that a mentality that you now aim for? Maybe you always kind of aim for it, just to compete relaxed, and that's where you find your peak performance at?
So just like powerlifting, you have some athletes that only do specific show a year. That is advised, but then again, to the upcoming strongmen, I mean, or like athletes, I'd like to advise them to put themselves out there more. Because the advantage of that is it made me kind of master the craft and it made me realize, look, there's nothing to lose. I just have to go out there and do what I do best. And the more and more I competed, like trying to make a name for myself last year, I got really confident. And I believed more in myself and I got more relaxed because I knew even if I don't make it on this comp, I could make it on the next comp. So that was the mindset, the growth mindset I had. Obviously, there are risks putting your body online, which some coaches will not advise. So I remember talking to some pros in the Giants Live and I telling them how many comps I did a year. They were like, damn, Evans, that's really much. But then again, that's what fastened up my progress. Because I was willing to put myself on there and I knew the factors like me being young, me being able to recover faster, and all of these.
Yeah.
So talking of the patience and the relaxed mentality, I'm grateful for the comps I actually took on, the risks I actually took on, and it made me more better mentally because, like I said, putting yourself out there really, really, really builds character.
Well,
Yeah, but
I agree. I even think similarly along those same lines for powerlifting. If you're a young powerlifter who recovers quickly, it's like you hear people talk about how you do a powerlifting comp and you're beat up and you kind of don't know what everybody's talking about. I wasn't like that when I was young. And if I could go back and do it again, I would have done like one comp a month. I think it would be great
Yeah,
to really learn the skill of competing because there's a certain rhythm to it. There's a
yeah.
skill to it. And you can't do that forever. Like later on, it's just not really possible, or if you were to do it, it would be really compromised. You couldn't do it the same way. So yeah, I think that taking advantage of your youth is it's probably a good thing. As long as you don't accumulate anything that's like truly long term, then it seems like a great way to build experience.
yeah, also over time you learn your own limits. So in the beginning you have to test the waters a bit.
But the
And
question is, what are limits? Limits I believe, are like mental barriers we create for ourselves. An example is Jesus Olivares, one of the allegedly strongest on earth. He didn't put limits on himself. He's still pushing it. Who knows? He recently broke the squat record. He could be the first to squat 500 kilos. So see, it's really interesting then again because Jesus is pretty young. Because having to be a strength athlete, I follow up with the powerlifting, big names and stuff.
Yeah.
It's really nice seeing his training, going through the whole process. It also advises me, limits are boundaries you put in your mind. The body was made to actually overcome this, to really put yourself out there. Think about it.
see, that's really impressive because you are also something that is really unique about you is that you're known for your strong fighting spirit. So where does this actually come from?
Oh, so as a kid being born in Ghana, like literally not having much options because like sports is a luxury. Having the privilege to be able to like, show or showcase my strength, literally kind of give me a different energy or different vibe to let people understand everything, they actually dreamt of is possible. And like I said, not being a victim of your past, because most people actually still live in the past. And what makes a great athletes, when you talk to the big names, they kind of make peace with their past. So it's insane. I mean, most people are still battling things they could never speak about. And that could be a game changer. The more you let go of the past and realize the possibility in like finding who you are in the future, trust me, it's a different type of discovery. It's like finding gold, really. It could be
What was
insane.
that process like for you? Like, how did you manage to do that?
To be honest, I'm grateful for the people I surrounded myself with. I'm grateful for, let's say, the books I read, because I do have a background in accounting, and I used to invest on the markets, stock markets. So basically, all these little things, because you buy a company, obviously, with the facts and figures, but then again, reality goes against, whatever happens. So what you have is hope and belief that the world could change. Sometimes you get let down, and at the same time, you still hope. So I realized the main keyword in life is just hope and belief, because no one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. People have ended their lives, thinking, hey, the world's all over. And it all happen inside of the mind. So you having the word called believe and hope is something I got to nurture, through like little threads I had. So whatever is happening, be it in training or without, or outside of training, you need to focus on the future. I mean, possibility of creating a better future. So that's what has kept me. Obviously, people will ask you to be very like realistic, but it's okay to be delusional. I mean, when it comes to mental health and looking at things from a positive mindset, you need to look up for the future. That's what
Like
keeps you
that's
going.
You're not the only you're not the only high level athlete that I've heard say this either. By the way, it's just it's just interesting the word choice similarity as well. I was talking to a friend of mine, international competitive powerlifter and whatnot, and she often credits her delusions with, like, she cites her delusions of being a source of progress.
Mindset is everything. I believe wealth could be taken away from you. Your clothes could be taken away from you. Even your spouse could be taken away from you. But one thing that cannot be taken away from you is the way you think. That's one thing you have to work on every day. It's like choosing your clothes. You wake up today, be like, okay, I want to wear this cap I'm wearing now. Your choice of clothes, like what you wear and what she's wearing, she chose it. So why can't you choose what you want to think in a day?
Yeah, that's
Your
true.
life is good
So
as your mindset. Seriously.
You're also religious, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like this also influences your mindset when it comes
Well,
to being an
to be
athlete?
to be very honest, it's been very long since I went to church, and having to meet like quote unquote non-believers, which is also okay. Having to interact with them, one thing they even understand is the positivity. Yeah, and that's what the Bible actually says. Like me coming from a religious background, so yeah, religion also played some impact in the level or the extent of positivity I have. But then one language the human race understands is positivity, because no one likes a negative person, be they being religious or not, being Islamic, being Christian, being even Buddhist or atheist. The common language is love and positivity. Everyone understands it. Coming in with belief and hope as well, like being the core building blocks. So religion obviously had an impact in the way I'm thinking, but then again, the more and more you realize the common language is positivity, and the Bibles or the Quran literally speaks about this. So as a human, rebranding yourself with these basic blocks, yeah, very, very
so where
important.
did this kind of the positivity, did that come naturally to you, or did you have to work to cultivate that?
Yeah, I had to work towards this. To be honest, let me put this out there before people get me wrong. Positivity doesn't mean hiding your emotions or like feelings, you get me? Positivity is actually facing them, understanding them, and dealing with them. But then with the mindset of that, everything is going to be all right in the future. Because truth is, we always have this common saying, the variables you can control, you have to take care of it. And the ones you can control, you have to let go. But people who actually live in a constant sadness, try to, control things, they can't. Which leads to the whole, problem being sad always and stuff. Of course, it's okay to have problems, just like in lifting. You're going to hit a plateau sometimes, you get me?
Mhm.
But then,
Yeah, because also people like athletes talk about positivity all the time, and I feel like a lot of athletes that still have to work a lot. I mean, everyone has to work on their mental approach. Being an athlete is a full-time work in progress, but the ones that have to still make a lot of work there when it comes to their mentality, and I feel like they are still facing those negative thoughts, those are actually normal. Like you have to face them. It's not that just being positive means that you're never going to have any negative thoughts in training. You're going to deal with your own emotions, and you're going to shift them and reframe them into something positive
yeah,
or something powerful.
good approach.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a talk with
Yeah,
Gabi before. Sorry, yeah, Mike.
I was Gabby, your story reminded me of, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a sports psychologist, and kind of overheard a conversation he was having with an athlete at a seminar. that we were at, and the athlete asked him, people talk about visualization, and so they're visualizing the competition, and then like something negative pops into the visualization, so they're supposed to be imagining their third attempt squat being successful, and then, right as they get ready to descend in their mind, their knee wrap pops off or something like that, right? What do you do with that? And his advice was, like, that's normal. That's kind of your brain's coping mechanism, like that these things can happen as well. So don't necessarily run from that, but I really like what you were saying about kind of reframing it in a hopeful way. Don't run from it, but just kind of think through it. Well, what do you do in that situation? How do you make the best of a situation where things happen that are outside of your control? Yeah, it reminded me of that.
I mean, I have a question for you, Gaby and Mike here. Not maybe a question message. Just look at your best athletes you have, right? And look at their correlation with their mindsets, and look how their lift improves. It's like to even all coaches out there, yeah? Because, like I said, of course, one thing I do, I complain a lot sometimes when my blood comes and everything. But one thing I always do is I do the work. I always say to people, it's human to complain. It's human to feel pain. Of course, no one is an animal. It's human to be scared of weights and all of that. But like you said, you and Gaby said again, dealing with it, facing it.
Yeah.
It creates a habit. It creates an attitude. So I told myself it's okay to even sometimes cry. It's okay to feel your thing. But then again, the work still has to be done. Then it comes to discipline.
It's true. Like one of the best athletes, what I see the trends are that you can just throw a program to them and they do it. They execute it. Of course, they're going to report the signs of fatigue to you, which also includes complaining.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it now this week for you. You complain a lot in the gym. And I was like, damn, Evans, this is not normal. So for him, it's just a sign of being fatigued. But he still does it. So he still executes the program.
To be honest, if any athlete watching this, it's okay to complain. Like I said, it's all right. If your coach didn't believe in you, he would never give you this, or she would never give you this program. So it's okay to complain. It's human. Don't hide emotions. Let it out. At the end of the day, the work still has to be done. That's the most important stuff. Don't hide emotions. And also, when you go through this phase, just talk to your coach about it, so they understand. Of course, I'm sure they know, especially you and Gaby, having this background, which is interesting for me to hear. Talking about positivity in sports, having a direct correlation. Yeah. It's interesting.
I'm actually curious, since you've been coached by all of your friends doing powerlifting, and now you also have a coach in Strongman. How different is that experience for you?
Fun fact is, having my best friend be my coach was one of the most successful things I ever had. And even till now, it carries on to he's still coaching me on the side, because I used to align my squats workouts with him. And the first time I squatted 350 kilos with Olivier, I was really scared. He saw the way 320 moved, and he known me for almost a decade. Evans, you ready for 350? I didn't see it. And anyone who was around at that time saw me shake, saw my eyes, saw my disbelief. 350, he was like, yeah, man, you ready for it? So that was the advantage I had with my, biggest progress. And it comes down to coach. If you're an athlete watching this, please, it's very important to develop a very good relationship with your coach. You should have to really open up, let them know you, let them understand you, because it really helps them, in programming. And coming back to Olivier, he literally he sees through me. Even till now, anytime I'm struggling with the left, he's like, come on, Evans, because he's seen me nagged in again, which is very strange people. It comes down to who you could really go to on and, be very truthful with. And so Olivier still even decides some lefts to me based on RPE, which really works. So I had an advantage in that. He literally pushed me, and because we built the whole thing based on friendship.
Mm-hmm. But he's also very genuine.
Oh, yeah.
I also made an experience with Olivier, having a coach that is very confident in what he says and very authentic, knowing that when he says something, he means it, is so valuable, because at it was also Nationals 2022. I was in the warm-up area, and I took my last deadlift warm-up, and it literally felt like it was glued on the floor, and I was panicking because I was like, damn, what if I bomb out, because I don't know if I can make my opener. And I saw Olivier standing next to me, And he just stood there and he just nodded and he said to me, "This moved great." And I looked at him and I was like, "Really?" And he was like, "Yeah, you can do it." And this actually made me believe that I could do it. So it's so valuable to have a coach.
The keyword believe. I love the way you said believe.
Yeah. Yeah, because it always starts in your head.
Believe will change your world.
Yeah.
Trust me. Believe is the most important
And
thing.
Gabby, again, you remind me of a similar story. I was competing at the 2014 World Championship, and I was going back and forth with Mohamed Bouafia. Eventually, he won that competition, and I came second. But I ended up performing really, really well at this competition. Squatted well, benched well. I was behind a bit, and I mean, just the way that I do my training, I knew very well what my physical capabilities were in the deadlift, and then as luck would have it, I needed, some 10, 15 kilos more than that, to go for the win on my third pull, which you have as much as you have, and there will be some weight that you can load that you just simply can't lift. And when I look at it through a coach's eye, it was more weight than I could lift. And I didn't complete that third attempt. But the thing that makes that lift stand out to me so much is one, I knew that I needed it. That was the number that I needed to try to win the competition. And how completely I convinced myself that I was going to be able to pull it. And I did pull it more than I thought that I would. It got further than I anticipated. But it's hard to explain how weird that disconnect is to have this thing that is more than I was capable of doing. And I knew that before, I knew that after, but then right in this period of time, I fully convinced myself that was going to happen, and it's hard to convey just what that feeling is like, but it taught me something about, I mean, it's a theme of this conversation, how powerful the belief can be, but it's also that you have this ability to just create it,
Mike, I love the way you put it. Really, I really love the way you put it. It is very, very, very important, man. Some things you can't explain, some feelings. I saw you were you're trying to pull words and actions to describe it, but some things you just have to experience,
Truly, yeah.
I have one question that I have for you is, what legacy do you hope to leave in the world?
Before I answer this question, I have one question for you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it's strange to answer a question with a question. But Mike and Gaby, what makes a good coach? I was wondering. Whole day today, what makes a good coach?
That's a really good question, because I feel like there are a lot of ways to describe a good coach, and everyone would give you a different description of that.
Mhm.
But I think ultimately it depends on an athlete that you're working with, because every athlete has different needs. I believe that each coach has different strengths and weaknesses.
Mhm.
So knowing those are really important. For example, when it comes to me, I know that I can emphasize with my athletes a lot, which helps me to understand them and also to provide the most individualized experience.
Let me make it more simple. One, what wins championship? I say coach, because there are some coaches that keep winning championships. You know what I mean? What makes a winning coach? Let me put it that way. What makes an extraordinary coach?
That's harder. That's a harder question, not a simple question. Yeah, I think that we talk about coaching having three big pillars: leadership, relationship, and creativity. But a lot of that boils down to a coach's willingness to pay attention. I mean, really pay attention and really study an athlete. And it goes to what you're saying about building a relationship with the athlete, but also providing guidance when the athlete needs it. You have to pay attention to know, the athlete doesn't know what they should do in this situation. Well, maybe you're talking about something like, should I move up a weight class or not? You'll be in these situations where generally speaking, there's no right or wrong answer, but there is a right answer for this person. And that's the real question. And you have to pay attention to the details of that individual and their situation. What do they care about? So that you can give them that right answer. And like the creative problem solving is all about paying attention and matching up the right tool with the job that needs to be done. So to me, it comes back to that. Like a coach's, it's caring, but an intense kind of caring, it feels like paying attention. Yeah.
I feel like at the end of the day, you just need a coach that believes in you to become the greatest version of yourself. Because I remember when I started powerlifting, my first coach, Yannis, he was the first one to tell me that I have short arms. And I thought to myself, like, what are you talking about? I never looked into the mirror and thought I had short arms. But after seeing me bench, I think once he told me, bench is going to become your money lift. You are going to become a good bencher. And I thought, like, are you sure? Because I can barely bench to 20 kilo bar at the moment. Look at me now, like bench is now my favorite lift. And I learned to love it because I had someone to believe in me first and set the path. And I decided to walk it.
Man. I love the way you and Mike really spoke about everything, my expertise. I really love it. Because I was expecting you to say, this degree, No, everything you said excluded these qualities. You get me?
Yeah.
And I think it's beautiful. Let's look at Serena Williams. Like, your dad was never a pro tennis player, but he built two great athletes through what you guys said, the qualities. And that's really impressive. Like, man, really.
Of course, I believe that as a coach, you need to have knowledge because at the end of the day, you have responsibility over your athlete's health. But you need to be passionate and you need to be engaged and you are interacting with another human being. So it's not just writing something on paper and, okay, go do it.
The greatest coach, I believe, never actually played the sports, They have the passion. They've just seen people do it. And they're like, I'm capable of believing in someone, like you said, Yannis believing in you, saying you have short arms and you could push through. It's everything, man. That was just, by the way, guys. Thank you.
I keep thinking of these anecdotes, but there's a book I read some years back called The Talent Code. And I think a lot of it maybe has been disproven or
wait, wasn't it
our understanding the talent code? Like one of the things it talks about is the 10,000 hour rule, which is a whole other conversation in itself. But one thing that I thought was really interesting about the book is he talks about how you develop these pockets of sporting greatness in different regions. Maybe it's baseball players from Puerto Rico or soccer players from Brazil or South Korean golfers or something like that. I'm not a big follower of golf, but he was talking about like, why would that be? And you think, well, maybe it's the facilities, and you go, look, well, it's not really the facilities, maybe the opposite, in fact. And the conclusion he comes to is that it comes down to a point of ignition that at some point, the younger athletes, there becomes this point where they suddenly believe that they can achieve something. And so they pour more effort and more energy into it. And of course, some people can't. The reality is what it is. And some people, not everyone can be an elite athlete, but the ones who can be elite athletes must believe in order to see that potential. So it's through that. And after I read that, I started thinking back in my own life, like, what was it for me? And I remember always being interested in physical things and being interested in lifting weights and having early success with lifting. I remember, and maybe it was my second day in the gym or something like that, and benching 60 kilos. And when the older kid loaded up the weight on the bar, he goes, "Oh, you get to use the big boy plates." And that was the thing, right? Like, oh, I'm good at this. I'm getting something from this, and, the talent, of course, is not just that, but it requires that,
I like it. I love the story so much, Mike. Man, thank you so much, actually, for reminding me of certain, traits. Like, what keeps an athlete going is also the belief, then again, believe in the future. separates the rest from the best, like Kobe Bryant, being makes the rest in peace, striving for greatness with the Mamba mentality. So yeah, it's
Gabby told me that I would really enjoy this conversation with you. That you were a really inspiring person to talk to, and she was 100% correct on that. Thanks for making the time to sit down and talk with us.
Yeah, thank you.
man, I'm really, really grateful for this opportunity because I have so much words. I can't wait to put everything I've learned so far, the journey I'm going through. Because
Yeah.
the end goal is actually to be a politician. Yeah, can you imagine?
Oh, really?
I can imagine that.
Fantastic.
The end goal is not to be a full-time athlete, but to be a politician. But then again, I'm doing
Right.
sport to keep myself disciplined. Can you imagine?
I can, yeah, yeah.
I feel
I-
like every conversation or almost every conversation that I have with you turns into like a full-blown TED talk of you holding motivational talks, and I always leave the conversation and I'm like, damn, I have new
Man,
energy now. so-
sports in general, strength sports, which is known as sports, people should take this serious. I mean, it's life changing and it's telling me like so much stuff. And it comes down to your last question: what do I want to remembered for? I want to be able to, grow the sports in my country, like in Africa, to be more precise, to make people realize they could actually be good at something, and it shouldn't be something which is somewhere. Look deep inside, and it's possible to also be diverse. Change is possible. Change is one of the best qualities or supernatural powers anyone could ever possess. Don't be stuck. I'm transitioning being an athlete into a politician, which is okay.
Sports minister, right?
Hopefully, or president. Who knows? Like I got to realize everything is possible. Now starts with the belief. Like
Let's
even
go.
Mike put it.
Let's go.
The belief,
like
like
that.
I'm aiming for everything. And like I said, so for us, you keep doing this, your options become limitless. Keep coming across right energies and people who are going to put you in places. So I want to remember it for this, making people realize, because I became the first Ghanaian strength athlete, and which is almost impossible, making it out of Belgium, because Belgium is very focused on cycling and football. So the sports is really getting bigger here, really big. And I want to be remembered as an impactful guy, in building the sports through positivity. Now, yeah, that's what I want to be remembered for. Seriously, love
I
seeing people
definitely
grow.
think you will, because you influence basically everyone that is around you, everyone in the gym as well. So I'm very grateful for that.
And not to forget, apply this lesson in your daily life. I mean, your real life, being it in your relationship, being it in your workplace. Because trust me, great athletes are not only great on the sport, they're also great in real life too. So it's time for these athletes to kind of not look for balance, but look for kind of like a constant improvement in everything. That's when the PRs could be broken. Trust me.
Well, again, thank you very much. Appreciate you sitting down with us. Thanks, Gabby, for setting this up. And thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah.